What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. I'm Salty Sleggy. Thanks for tuning in today. Today we are going to talk about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the game, the upcoming asymmetrical horror that will be coming at some point this year. And the topic of today's video will primarily focus on the family and how the dynamics of each character will play their role within a match. So in order to do this, we're going to have to focus on their abilities and attributes first. Firstly, we'll focus on their attributes and then we'll move on to the actual characters individually and break them down. So the family attributes fall into three categories, that is savagery, harvesting, and endurance. These attributes differ depending on the family member that you play as and can be tuned to your liking by unlocking attribute points within the skill tree and assigning them to one of the three categories. On top of attribute points, certain perks within the skill tree will also buff an attribute category by equipping it, but more information down the line will come about the perk system, so keep an eye on their socials and their website. So let's kick off with savagery. This attribute directly affects the amount of damage you deal with melee hits, but should not be seen as simple strength. Think of savagery as a proficiency level for killing in game, used in conjunction with endurance as well to determine the full potential for damage dealt. So it's a stat that will get better over time, so the more you get better at the game, the more damage you're going to deal over time, and then you combine that with stamina. Depending on how much stamina you have depends on how much damage you'll deal with each swipe. I hope that's correct. Next up, we have harvesting. Harvesting affects the amount of blood you gain for Grandpa when interacting with victims. It does not, however, affect the amount of blood gained from buckets, so there are buckets around the map. Melee hits, grapples with victims, and executions are the specific interactions that can fill your blood vial depending on your harvesting stat. So there's going to be a stat, so depending on how high it is, depends on how much blood you get from the victim every time you slash at them, grapple at them, or even execute them. And as we see in the gameplay trailer, there is a little vial there that goes up to 100, so you can feed it to Grandpa and use that sonar ability so you can actually see the remaining victims that you're struggling to find. And last in the attribute category is endurance. Similar to the victim's attribute, endurance affects the stamina drain and recharge rate on the family side. However, melee strikes also drain stamina, making the endurance attribute important for dealing damage as well as mobility. So unlike the victims that are only going to have to deal with that drain of stamina and the recharge rate of stamina, the family have to deal with the melee drain side of it. So you've got to pick your swipes because that's going to drain your stamina as you're chasing your victims, and that critical blow could mean the difference between them escaping or you actually capitalizing on the kill. So now we've covered what the killers are having to contend with as they're chasing down their victims. Let's actually move on to them individually and every single family member. There are 2 additional family members that have been added to the roster as well. These are original new characters, and let's kick off with Sissy, one of our new members here. Sissy is light on her feet, similar to the hitchhiker, but also crafty, sneaky, and sinister. Because of this, not only can she traverse through gaps and crawl spaces, she can also utilize hiding spots to get the jump on victims. So if someone's got a Sissy on their team, you're not gonna get any breathing space. She also comes with the ability Bane, which means she can craft poisons from local plants and then blow the powder in your face, as well as use them to contaminate items around the map. Gonna be curious to see what kind of things what items you can poison. Can I poison a lamp? Can I poison a door? I look forward to her gameplay, definitely. The fact she can actually crawl into spaces and do basically whatever all the victims can do is a pure contender to be worried about. The second new addition to the family is Johnny. And Johnny, aside from being able to actually track you through the map so he can see your footprints, Johnny can also put his frame to work for him by being able to instantly barge doors as well as close crawl spaces in game. His hits are also concussive, delivering an extra layer of disorientation on attack to helpless victims. So he's gonna leave you a bit concussed. And as you can see, he comes with the ability Hunt, which means that he can actually track the fresh footsteps of victims around the map. So I'm guessing he'll be able to see them if they're just recent, and then obviously they'll fade over time. So he's like a hound, he's going to sniff you out. Now we move on to the remaining 3 original members. First, the hitchhiker. He's a slippery one, and his traversal is a perfect example of that. He can play as the persistent pursuer that is tough to shake off, chasing victims through gaps and crawl spaces. His high endurance marks means he's swiping at you relentlessly while doing so. And he also has the trap, so he can put traps down. He can stop you in your tracks to get 3 traps. Not too sure if he'll be able to reset these traps or be able to move them, but that might lead into the next character that could be a possibility. And that character is the cook. He has additional locks to doors around the map, starting the match off with 3 in his inventory. These locks can be removed and added back into his inventory should he choose to relocate one of them. Now, unlike the other family members that can actually crawl into these spaces, the cook will actually close these spaces, making the victims need to reopen them quietly. So that crawl space you crawled through previously could be closed and you'll have to reopen it instead of just being able to get through. So that's going to slow victims down a lot, and can also be used as a clue to indicate, well, I closed that, so someone's reopened it, so they could be close. And as we saw in the trailer, he has this ability called Seek, where the cook will be able to lean in and listen carefully to any strange sounds he might hear around the map. If a sound is detected, he can focus in on it, revealing the location of the victim unfortunate enough to be making the most noise. So you've got 2 trackers there. You've got one by sound, one by tracks. And to finish off, I'm sure everybody wants to play this character. It is Leatherface. He is the destructive type. Leatherface can destroy crawl spaces, barricades, and doors. Barricades being one of the few items that can give victims a bit of separation from the more nimble family members like Sissy and the hitchhiker. This destructive option changes the routes present in the map each match, and it comes with the ability Maim, which speaks for itself. As I said previously, you can rev the chainsaw, you can turn the chainsaw off for more mobility. It's going to be your primary weapon for getting rid of all those barricades and whatnot, as well as dismembering victims. So I can actually compare this to like Friday the 13th. Like when you used to play as Jason and you used to knock all the doors off, it was so much easier to kill people because they didn't have the door to protect them. And same with the windows, they'd get damaged if the windows were damaged, etc. So if you take out all the points of where they can kind of slow you down, it's game over. As well as the same can be said for Dead by Daylight. Once you get rid of all the pallets, they've got less wiggle room in order to just continuously keep looping you. So in regards to the family, that's currently all the information we have. If you did enjoy this, you might want to tune in tomorrow when we cover the attributes and abilities that are available to us right now for the victim side. Other than that, we do have a couple of pictures circulating from Gun Media's social media, showcasing your starting point, which will be the basement. And in the second image, we see Sonny rummaging through a toolbox looking for supplies. See, he's got a screwdriver there in the cold room. And as you can see in this image, there's actually a difference in his heart. It's got a bit of orange and then a bit of red, whereas if we take a look at the previous image, the heart is completely red, so I'm guessing that's something to do with the fear mechanic. Full red, full fear. Maybe it extends over time. We did have that red and orange indicator around the victims as they were moving around the house. And from the previous footage, we only saw a white heart, so maybe that's been changed. But other than that, Wes and his team at Gun Media are keeping it close to their chest, so until they're ready to show more, I can't really speak on it. I'm just speculating. And with that said, firstly, I want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel. Leave a comment down below. That really helps out the channel as well. Let me know who your killer is that you're going to be playing on release, or which one of the killers you found the most interesting that you learned a bit more about. If you want to support the channel in other ways, you'll also find my social medias linked below in the description. Be sure to follow me over there. Have a wonderful day as always, and I'll see you next time.